Hi there. Thanks for joining in. I am not sure yet whether I'm going to add to this mid-year check-in my little chat on New Directions books or not. I might tack it on to the end of this little chat, so we'll see. But anyway, I wanted to, for the first time since I've just had this channel since October, I wanted to check in and look at my stuff, my reading in the last 6 months. I've never done this before. I've never done this for my own reading, just period, on my own. So because other people do it on Booktube, I thought, it's interesting. I've never looked at my reading. I've not always kept a list. I've kept a list off and on of books that I've read through the year, off and on through the many decades that I've been reading. But most recently, I started a Word document in the beginning of 2020. And I'm so glad I've done this because I can look back. Isn't that a great thing? And I didn't think that I would enjoy keeping it on a Word document, but it turns out that it's fine because normally I like notebooks and things like that. But anyway, here I am. Okay, this first couple minutes is just going to be about stats. If you don't like stats, and I don't know that I really do, but somehow when someone says they're going to talk about stats, I listen because I don't know. I guess it's just interesting. I'm just going to give you the number of books and just some reflections on the kinds of books and everything that I've written down. I've got some notes. In front of me. So just know the number of books that I read in a year, I don't care. I never have a goal. I couldn't tell you how many I read in 2020 and 2021 because I didn't number them. But for some reason in 2022, I know, because I was on Booktube and I was just interested in I started to be interested in how many books that I read in case I wanted to talk about it. So anyway, it varies dramatically year to year. I do know that. So this means nothing to me, but for anybody else, in case it means something, I've read 60 books so far. That seems like a pretty high number to me. A couple things. One, I read a lot of short books, novellas, not on purpose. It just turned out that way. So I can tell that's how, some of these numbers added up. I've read a couple NetGalley ARCs, advanced reader copies. I don't normally do that. I haven't done that in a long time, so I think it just adds to the reading. The only one I've talked about is Small Worlds, but I am going to mention one of them here because it comes up in September. But I won't be doing a lot of that. I just got into a little spell where I was doing it, but I won't be doing it anymore, probably this entire year. And I do tend to pay attention to International Booker long list and short list, or the long list, I should say, because I find in that particular prize, I can find some interesting books. It's international, it's translated stuff. So out of that long list, I guess, I discovered, what is her name? Vigdis? Let me see if I can find it quick enough. The author of Is Mother Dead? Ugh, that was extraordinary. I don't know if I can find it. Yeah, Vigdis Kurth. And then, Eva Balthasar. I had already read Permafrost, so I knew I was going to read Boulder when I saw that list. The Birthday Party by Laurent Mauvenier was an experience. So I do like that list to possibly read something off of. I'm not reading the list or to be able to predict a winner or anything, but it's a good way to discover authors. The Women's Prize, I paid more attention this year to the Women's Prize than I normally would because, I actually don't know why. I guess there were just some ones that I was interested in. I can't even remember what they are now. I'd already read Demon Copperhead when it came out last fall. but my God, I can't even remember what was on there that I read. Oh, Trespasses. So I knew I wanted to read that. I am interested in Irish authors, so that was attractive to me. That might have been the only one that I read. I don't remember now. But anyway, so I get a little more reading done off of those lists, but not necessarily every year. All right, out of those books, by the way, half were new mostly literary fiction, which again is unusual for me, but that really, you can chalk that up to those 2 prizes that I talked about. And then there were just some light, easy breezy fiction that I wanted, that I was really interested in, that I wanted to read, like romantic comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld and Yellowface. So that's that. A couple new authors that I discovered, either backlisted or new. Of note to me that I'm really glad that I discovered, I'm going to look at my notes here. Catherine Scanlon, Kick the Latch, and then I went back and read Og9 Fog. I will read anything that she puts out. I love her style. I love how she gets her subject matter. So unique. I read 2 Graham Greenes, and this Graham Greene was a new author for me. I read The End of the Affair first, excellent, and then I read another one. So I'm really glad about that. I read R.F. Kuang. So I do want to try Babel someday. And Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't know whether I'll ever read another one. Who else? Who were the new ones? Other than Vigdis Hjorth, who I just mentioned. I started off my year, I've noticed here, by reading an Anita Bruckner, which is really fun. That's the book, Visitors, that I got when I visited my mom in the December before it. So I must have started off the year reading Visitors, which is fantastic. And then shortly after that, I read my first Ernie or No. But really early in the year, and I think this was still in January, maybe it was right at the end of January, I read, here's another new author to me, Joshua Cohen, The Netanyahus. Oh my gosh, what fun. I really wanted to go and read more Joshua Cohen, but I haven't yet. Ugh. But I wanted to. Oh, of course, Amina Cain. See, I'm forgetting all these authors. Amina Cain. I was introduced to Amina Cain, which I'm so glad I was. I read Indelicacy. I haven't read her other one, which is about writing. Tove Hansen, and Gwendolyn Riley, because I read My Phantoms, and then I read First Love after that. You talk about books that stay with you, and then you think more about them afterwards. Kevin Wilson, I thought Now Is Not the Time to Panic was just excellent new fiction. I mean, that was fun. That was really fun. Oh, Rosemary Tonks, The Bloater, and Eleanor Catton are 2 new ones to me. I read Burnham Wood, and then The Bloater. I don't know if I need to read another Rosemary Tonks, but Eleanor Catton, I don't know if I'm ever going to go read, what is it, The Illuminaries or something like that. But I might read something she comes up with next. Let's see. Sorry that I'm looking. J.M. Coetzee, Disgrace. Yeah, that was a really good reading experience. Percival Everett. I read my first Percival Everett. Looking for some standouts here. I mean, do I need any more? Caleb Azuma Nelson. I just read Small World, and I have to get to Open Water. Oh, well, Brandon Taylor and Emma Cline. Now, I'm not putting those 2 together. They just happen to be near each other on my list, but they were both new to me. I mean, I read not both, but the 2 Brandon Taylors that I read were back to back. And I just read and finished Maggie Nelson for the first time, which will not be the last time. Yeah, it's been quite an experience. I don't want to fail to mention that I am halfway through War and Peace. What's my experience been? Well, once you're halfway through War and Peace, you know all the characters now. You know what families they belong to. You know a lot about their personalities. You know what the men are like in and out of the battlefield. And it's just been fantastic. I love it. I love being in this world. I'm right now in a point of war again, or the start of war, because Napoleon has just crossed over into Russia and he's antagonizing. So yeah, I will say again, if you have the chance to do a slow read, a read along of War and Peace, and it happens to be a year long, do it, because I just love the trickle effect. I'm doing the same thing with the Magic Mountain, except on my own. I have it as an audiobook, but I have a physical copy. So once I get further along in the Magic Mountain audio-wise, then I just kind of like flip through and find the place I'm at in the book, and I'm about a third of the way through. It's so funny, and it's Trollope-like in that he's breaking the fourth wall and he's talking to us as the author. I love it. I love Hans Castor, the main character, his cousin, whose name I don't know, Greene, which is one of the guys who's at this spa, and then some of the other characters in the spa, like the doctor and this woman that Hans has eyes for, kind of. It's brilliant. I love it. I love the slow drip. I don't need to be reading it any further or faster, not further. I love listening to it in the car. Even just when I'm like running out at lunchtime, I'll listen to it for 5 minutes, and that's why it's taking me so long. But that's fine. That's how I like it. What do I want to do in the next 6 months? Well, I'm not a planner, so I don't know. I'm definitely looking towards more new to me authors, but backlisted, so they won't be newly published fiction. Like, they might be republished books, but less new, except, there's going to be some new ones here and there as they come up. I will get to, I really want to get to a Magda Szabo. I don't know whether I will, but I'd love to. Let me take a look at my whiteboard. I have a whiteboard with, I'll show you. That's my, I don't know. I just put notes about authors that I've heard of, either usually through Booktube or through a podcast, like the Backlisted podcast, or the book club review podcast, or so many book podcasts. I will be reading my first Jane Austen in July. That's a plan of mine. I have already started it because I just wanted to dip in. I had a few days and I'm not really reading anything yet. So I've already started it, and I'm sorry, I'm reading Emma. I don't know, but that's my intention. I haven't gotten to a Murakami. I've never read Murakami, but I don't know if I will this year. Thinking about Wuthering Heights or Middlemarch. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know. I wanted to be intentional about reading Barbara Cummins, which I did. Pym is always on the list, so I have read a Barbara Pym. Elizabeth Bowen, who I've never read. I might this year. Maggie Nelson, I've written down. Emile Zola. I don't know if I'll get to an Emile Zola, but it's going to stay up there. I just want to remind myself to maybe dip into Emile Zola. Oh, Elif Bottoman. I've read a Percival Everett. I have got to believe it or not, I have not read a Toni Morrison. So probably going to read Beloved. I don't know if it's Olivia Manning. I have not gotten to an Olivia Manning. So I don't know. I'll keep you posted though. I did want to tell you about some Booktube channels that I've been watching lately. These are not all the channels I watch, but I just wanted to flag a couple up that are favorites of mine. These are, of course, not all my favorites, but this list includes booktubers that have got tens of thousands of subscribers and ones that have just a couple thousand or a few thousand or even less than 1,000. So books like Whoa is so fun. Mara, I just watched one of her episodes. She is a romance reader, but she's also, I don't think she would, I don't know if she'd call herself a sci-fi reader, light fantasy, just a mixed bag of stuff. And her content is so fun to watch. Like, none of her books are really in any of the genres that I read, other than she happens to be reading Trollope right now. But I love her. I just love her. So check her out. Books like Whoa. Doom Antidote, Ben at Doom Antidote. He is British. I should say Books Like Whoa, Mara, is in the US. Doom Antidote loves classics. He talks so well about classics. He's an actor, really fun videos. He hasn't been recording so much lately, but he's going to try to record more this year than he has, but super fun. I have learned so much about, and when I say classics, I don't mean from a certain century, because it could be like 1940s classic, or a 1970s classic, but really does a very good job of describing his reading experiences. Benjamin Journal is a new channel, not new to me channel. It's been around for a few years. His reading is eclectic, far-reaching, multiple different types of genres. Check him out. The Grim Reader is a German woman who lives in the US and has really interesting reading taste. I think she's a newer channel, really low-key and wonderful content. I don't know what I was going to say there. And Gina Stainer Books, of course, I will list all of these down in my notes, but Gina Stainer Books has something like, 3,500 or 4,000 followers. She is in her 50s like me, and she's got like interesting reading taste that very rarely jives with mine, but I love her videos, and I just love knowing what she's into, what she's reading, because it's going to be different than me, and I like that. I like that a lot. Very upbeat and positive person. You'll see what I mean when and if you check her out. So those are the Booktube channels, some of them that I tap into. I would love to know about your favorites too. I love learning about and checking out different Booktube channels. All right, well, thanks for sticking in there with me on a somewhat choppy-ish catch up. I didn't do the freak out questions. Oh well, I don't know what they are. What are they? Favorite author. I don't have fictional crushes. I'll tell you, I'm still going to call this a freak out tag, right? Because didn't I answer some of the questions? No, I don't know. But my fictional crush I think would be Anthony Trollope himself, because I can feel his presence in this Barsetshire Chronicles that I'm reading. I could just feel his presence in these books, and that's been really fun. I did want to mention, I did have a surprise. Oh, I know, my surprise these last 6 months, Jane Eyre. I read Jane Eyre, and I wouldn't have guessed that I would be so engaged, and it would feel like it had such more modern themes, and that some of it was like self-referential. Yeah, that was my biggest surprise. I don't know what the other question. I answered 2 of them. That's all I can say. I don't remember what the other ones were. I think the one was like most disappointing. I don't know. I don't know if I had a disappointment. Let me just take a second and look. I'm going to see. Oh, I know how I was going to answer this. I tend not to finish books. I tend not to finish books if I'm disappointed. So I tend not to have them on my list because I didn't read them. And I don't keep track of my DNFs. So anyway, that's my tag. Thanks for joining me. Again, now that I see how long I've been yammering on, I don't think that I'll do a new directions little chat here, but I want to hear what your stats are. If you like stats, if you're a stat person. I don't use Storygraph or Goodreads, so that's like I don't have those charts and stuff. But it's been interesting. It's growing on me, this stats thing, just to look at your own reading patterns and whatever. So anyway, thanks for checking in. I'll talk to you later. Hi, here I am again. Okay, I looked up the mid-year freakout tag questions. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's a few that I didn't hit, so I'm just tacking on a couple minutes. I already talked about fictional crush. I talked about my non-plans for the next 6 months, kind of. Talked about the biggest surprise, Jane Eyre. Biggest disappointment, I didn't really have one because I can't even remember because those are books I didn't finish. But I did want to tell you what my favorite book is over the last 6 months. And there is not just one book. There are 4 that I've broken, not that I've broken it down, but there are 4 that I have narrowed it down to in no particular order. Joshua Cohen's The Netanyahus. If you want just hilarious, good writing, check that book out. My number 2 is also my favorite series that I've started this year, which is Anthony Trollope's Barsetshire series. And anytime that I was looking for excellent book on my list, it was The Warden and Barchester Towers and Dr. Thorne. So clearly up there. Number 3 is Jane Eyre. That's going to be in my top 4. I had 4 favorites that I tried to narrow things down to. That's number 3. And number 4 is The Trees. That is also a funny book, but also a tough book. Tough and funny. When do you ever run into tough and funny? It's a singular experience. So those are my top 4. And now I will say goodbye. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts on those top 4 and anything that I've mentioned here and what your 6 months has been like also. Thanks for tuning in.